I had this interview with the so-called chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the American Armed Forces, General Martin Dempsey, the other day. He smiled a lot and he was quite nice in terms of answering questions. But if you read between the lines, it is very clear that Utapao is just the first step of a major shift by the American Navy in this region. In fact, I told him, I said, if you look at the Clark Air Base in the Philippines, and this is all from the Vietnam War time, when I was covering the Vietnam War from Thailand, from Utapao. Clark Air Base in the Philippines, Utapao in Bangkok, Cam Ranh Bay in Vietnam. These were the three main naval bases used by the American forces against the North Vietnamese. And all these bombers, big plane from Utapao, you know, these big B-52s were taking off and landing the whole day, whole night. And I told him, I said, you know, I could see that Utapao would not only be for humanitarian operations.
It should be the last thing that concerns humanitarian.
Yeah, but he used the word multi-purpose facility. And multi-purpose does indicate that it's more than just humanitarian reason. So there's no really secret that the Americans are coming in a big way.
Well, yes, the fact that he himself is here is a big news in itself. He just came from Singapore, where he attended a major security, international security conference there. That accidentally, it was a conference that was somehow ignored by China.
Right, it was called a Shangri-La Dialogue, interestingly enough, because Shangri-La is in China. And China wasn't, I don't know whether it wasn't invited or it turned down the invitation.
Right. So, and from Singapore he came here and that triggered a lot of speculation.
Yes. And you know, he confirmed that he raised this issue with the Thai Supreme Commander, General Thanassak, about using Utapao for disaster relief. But you know, Utapao, in fact, without being in the news, has been used by the American Air Force
in the past.
Maybe when they talk about, remember they said that there's a Guantanamo in Thailand? I suspect that maybe Utapao or Udon Thani was the place where the prisoners taken by the Americans were kept for a while, at least for interrogation. Of course, it was totally confidential. But there was no doubt in my mind that Utapao has been used by the Americans throughout the war, even after the Vietnam War, and especially during the Middle East crisis.
Right. Maybe the Abesis government had something to do with Utapao and the American authorities. We still don't know. They have been talk about secret chamber used by Americans concerning terrorism in Thailand, and it's all speculation about Utapao, of course.
I asked him, I asked General Dempsey that, is there anything in writing for the use of Utapao? He said, no. Everything has been verbal. But strangely enough, I heard Kun Panithan, who was Secretary General to the Prime Minister, Abhisit, at that time, he was on radio saying that there was an MOU between Thailand and the United States of the use of Utapao for occasional use. So there's something in writing.
Right.
You know, if it was done at the Abhisit's time. General Dempsey could not have said to me that there was nothing in writing if, you know, there was. So I'm confused as to whether any understanding in writing has been made.
Do you think that this visit and this talk about using Utapao has put Thailand in an awkward situation as far as China is concerned?
Yeah, the Chinese are very unhappy. They would not say so publicly, just like the United States government would not say anything publicly about containing China. China has been saying publicly that it hopes the United States will respect its interests and that it would be constructive in its activities here. But privately, you would hear Chinese diplomats telling you that the Americans are doing something bad.
Pushing the limits now.
Pushing the limits. And countries in this region should not allow the United States to do this. So you can see another Cold War brewing. You can look at it both ways. If you look at it positively, China and the United States being engaged here would reduce the tension, because at least they will sit down on the table and say, hey, you don't do this, you do that. At least it will be open. At least we will know what they think. Looking at negatively, this is going to create a lot of tension. We have to choose sides. We have being forced.
Two boys fighting over one girl, and we added that girl, that beautiful girl that are being wooed, being courted by China.
So my conclusion is, I asked General Dempsey, I said, is this repositioning of the Navy force indication of a new policy? He said, no, we don't use the word reposition. We use the word rebalance. So I think in the end, Thailand would have to rebalance its foreign policy in order to keep the balance between the Americans, old friends, the Chinese, also very old friends. So we need to protect our interests by being friendly to both, and at the same time being able to negotiate from strength.